Friday in the 610, so I was really looking forward to that. But I got a return from the race because two of them were non-runners and the other two were unplaced. So,
Okay.
but my other highlights, I always note down horses that I think, particularly 2-year-olds that run sort of green on their debut. They show signs of inexperience because they're always worth following. If once the penny drops, they can be a bit better than their form suggests. I wasn't, however, expecting one of those that I had in my notebook, a horse called Vertiginous, to turn up in the opening race at Royal Ascot on Wednesday, having finished second or third on debut.
That's easy for you to say, vertiginous. Gosh.
Yes. It was 150 to 1 in the morning. So
okay.
just out of loyalty to my system, I stuck a little each way bet on and then watched her get run out of fourth place right on the line, only to go back and check my bets and find that the bookie I'd used was paying 5 places. So I had 150 to 1 place.
Good man.
Which was quite nice. The other highlight for me was the Jersey Stakes on Saturday, which is always a race that I enjoy. And I actually had sort of 2 of my better bets of the day running in that race, the 2 Godolphin horses, Creative Force and Naval Crown, who ended up coming away from the field. It doesn't happen very often, and I didn't mind which way round they finished, so that was quite nice. But yeah, on another note, you mentioned Asheen Murphy on Friday getting sort of demoted in the race on Dragon Symbol. But then he came back later in the day and rode 2 winners. And I thought that was brilliant. For somebody that had just had that disappointment, it would have been very easy to be down in the dumps. But he bounced straight back. He won the next race and he won another one later on the card. And that was a heartwarming moment for me, I'm sure.
Absolutely. I think it was interesting, wasn't it, listening to Asheen Murphy when he got that microphone shoved under his nose by Matt Chapman. He was saying all the right things. Obviously, he wasn't going to give anything away, what he was going to say, but whether deep down he thought he might lose it. But as you say, he bounced back with 2 winners, got another one on Saturday, had 5 in the week and won the title. So who knows, perhaps there's a bit of a changing of the guard going on with jockeys and trainers at Royal Ascot.
Maybe, although still nice to see some of those old guys still winning. Joe Fanning winning a race.
Yeah.
Frankie still riding well. It's great that people my age are still winning races.
Well, thanks very much, Phil, for your highlights. It certainly sounds like you had a better Royal Ascot punting than I did, but never mind. We move on. Look, I'm delighted to say that we've got Debbie Hay as our special guest. I've met her just the once. I know, Phil, you enjoyed a very good working relationship with Debbie at Lingfield. Perhaps you'd like to introduce her.
Thanks, Simon. Yes, I met Debbie when she was working at Lingfield Park, but in the turmoil of last year when Arena Racing Company that owned Lingfield and several other courses were restructuring their roles and the management of their racecourses, Debbie decided to move on and became chief executive of Take The Reins, a sports-based not-for-profit organisation which works primarily in the racing industry with young people and communities. Debbie, welcome to Inside the Rails.
Thank you. Good to be here.
We will, of course, spend plenty of time talking about all the great work that Take The Reins is doing, but I'm going to take a lead from Simon, who always asks our guests how they got into the sport of horse racing. So can you tell us your story?
Yes, of course. I was working in PR and marketing after a lifetime of being a journalist. And I started at Lingfield Park on a 1-day-a-week contract, helping them with some consumer PR. And it grew from there, basically. I fell in love with the sport. I fell in love with the environment. And 9 years later, I became their head of commercial and partnerships.
And obviously, that's where we met. And I know, as you say, commercial and partnerships, you had a great approach to partnerships. It was something I was impressed with when we first met. You were doing a lot of work with local businesses and other members of the racing industry. And that's something that myself, Simon, and the rest of the Racehorse Syndicates Association Committee are huge advocates of, getting people working together for the benefit of horse racing as a whole. And that really seemed to be your ethos. So can you tell us a bit more about that and why you think it's so important?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's absolutely crucial. Firstly, I love people and building relationships. And I firmly believe that despite all the technological advances we have today, people still buy people when it comes down to it. I think the racing industry is hugely complicated with all of the stakeholders and different interests. And we all have a collective responsibility to make sure that it can work for everyone. including the communities we live in. And that was something I was passionate about at Lingfield, and forged very good relationships with the local community. My approach to any business I've been involved in is to work together with all the partners, and not just look for that quick win, which often people do. I think it makes commercial sense to build up relationships as well as enabling everyone to uphold those important moral and ethical values that we all hold.
And obviously, you were doing some great work then, but then, like so many people, you were impacted upon by last year and the events of last year. It was obviously a tough time for many people, and I know that Arena Racing, who owned the course, obviously felt that they needed to change some of their roles and structures to try and keep their business running. And that was what sort of caused you to move away. Was it an easy decision to step away or not?
At first, no. And I just have to say, I don't blame ARC at all for the restructure. They had absolutely no choice, like the whole of the racing industry. They were devastated by the lack of revenue coming in. But like everyone, I was wrapped in a comfort blanket of knowing the environment, the people, my role. But I soon realised that all of that had been taken away through COVID, and whether I stayed with ARC or not, it would never be the same. So I spent my furlough period actually as chair of trustees for another charity, the Dame Vera Lynn Children's Charity. We had to work incredibly hard with the staff and the trustees to save the charity from folding, because, as everyone knows, there was no fundraising income coming in. I'm really proud to say that despite that horribly tough period, it's now thriving. We help almost 70 children under the age of 5 with cerebral palsy and other motor impairments. But during that period, we also decided to set Take the Reins up as its own independent organisation. So let's just say that while most people were enjoying that glorious weather when they were furloughed, I was fairly busy. When I decided to take redundancy from the Lingfield role, I accepted the role of interim CEO of Take the Reins to try and build on the work that we'd already carried out.
And you were already a trustee there in the past, is that right?
That's right, yeah. And I'm still a trustee, so the decision will be whether I continue as a trustee or whether I step off the board and take over full-time as CEO.
That's great. And I suspect most people won't be particularly familiar with Take the Reins. I know, I have to admit, I wasn't until we started speaking about it. Can you tell us a bit more about what you do and who you help?
Yeah, I'd love to. We were set up originally to engage, support, and improve outcomes for people and communities through and in racing, but also in sport in general. Effectively, we work with established organisations already working in that sport for development arena to reach young people who normally would never even consider racing as a pathway for them, or, to be honest, even as a sport to follow. We're thrilled to see racing's commitment to diversity and inclusion, as this sits at the heart of obviously what we do at Take the Reins with many of the communities we work within. And we're now working closely with the industry, and specifically Josh Apiafi and his work, because they share similar ambitions to ours. And honestly, I'm confident that I think we're at the start of some real action now within racing.
That's great. And you mentioned Josh is somebody that you're working with, and he'll be known to some racing supporters, obviously seeing him on TV from time to time. But you've got some other well-known faces serving as trustees or supporters. Who else is involved, and what sort of support do they provide you with?
Yeah, we're really lucky in that all of the people involved in Take the Reins are involved in racing. And I think that's what makes us quite special, to be honest. We've got Amy Canham, who's our chair of trustees. She's an ex-Sky Sports producer, and was heavily involved with Richard Fahey's yard up in Yorkshire. Amy's also a director of an organisation called Flying Futures, which is another not-for-profit organisation based in Yorkshire, and they work to help young people in a range of social programmes. Former jockey Sammy Jo Bell, she now trains in Yorkshire with her partner Philip Makin, and we also have racing and general sports broadcaster Rishi Prasad. So we're really lucky to have a strong board of, although small, a strong board of trustees, which is fantastic. We've also got Mark Turner he was the founder of Flying Futures in Yorkshire, and Gary Stannett, who's the CEO of the Rio Ferdinand Foundation, who make up our advisory board for us.
Hi, Debbie. It's Simon here. Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. Look, you've mentioned quite a few well-known names there who are giving support to the charity. The RSA is quite a large body, probably the body representing syndicates. What can we do? What can RSA members do, and specifically syndicators and racing club managers do in a practical way to help?
Yeah, absolutely. Awareness is the key, Simon, to be honest. Take the Reins is a relatively new organisation. And because we're working with communities who normally wouldn't touch racing at all, the more experiences we can give these young people in working environments, the better. This is all about inspiring young people to understand that racing as an industry offers a whole wealth of careers, whether that's working with the horses, working in catering, being a ground staff member, whatever. So the more work experience we can give them, or experientials at yards, the better, to be honest. So please, just everybody, I would implore you to just spread the word. And if we do need access to a yard, just help us open some doors, really.
Well, we will certainly do that. We will certainly give you a big plug in our RSA newsletter, which goes out each month.
Fantastic. We can ask for no more.
And you mentioned, Debbie, that you've done some work with Rio Ferdinand's charitable trust. Has that sort of yielded anything for you going forwards?
Yeah, very much so. We quickly realised that TTR has no magic wand, basically, and if we wanted to reach young people in certain communities, then we needed to partner with existing organisations who've already built up that trust and reputation there. What Take the Reins is really keen not to do is duplicate any work that's already going on, either in racing or outside the industry, to be honest. What we want to do is put people on the right pathways, so we'll work with all organisations that are already doing that. We've got some exciting partnerships forming, as well as Rio Ferdinand Foundation. There's another organisation called Kick Off at 3, and that was set up by a Metropolitan Police officer, and they work primarily through football, but with diverse communities. We've also linked up with the Black Police Association and different forces throughout the country, because these are the people who know where the problems are and where we need to fill the gaps and where young people need more help.
Let's finish off the interview with a bit of a round of what happens next. Simon usually likes to ask people these types of questions. So what does the rest of 2021 and beyond have in store for you personally and for Take the Reins as an organisation?
For Take the Reins, we're planning to deliver a range of programmes from early next month. The first one's starting in Manchester, actually, with a group of young students there, as well as embed ourselves in the communities we most hope to affect. All of this is, of course, dependent on funding, but we're applying for charity status now, so hopefully that will help. And I've just had some fantastic news this week that ARC, obviously the company I used to work for, are fully supporting us. So it means we've got their 16 racecourses at our disposal to give these young people that absolute crucial insight into what the industry does and how brilliant horse racing is.
Oh, that is brilliant, because there'll be loads of opportunities through there, I'm sure. Finally, how do people contact you to support Take the Reins? Is there a website you can tell us about, or connecting with you somehow?
There is. The website is Take the Reins, all one word, takethereins.org.uk, and they can contact me. My details are on the website. Just send me an email, give me a shout.
That's great. We'll also put all of those details in the show notes, so that people that are listening can always check wherever they've just gone to listen to the podcast, and they should be able to see that information. Thanks very much for joining us, Debbie. That's been really interesting. Obviously, anything that we can do to help support, we'll be very happy to weigh in. But for now, thanks very much for joining us on Inside the Rails.
Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Well, I really enjoyed that interview with Debbie. Racing is known for its charitable works, isn't it, Phil? And there's another really good illustration of people in racing working for the greater good.
Yeah, she's doing some great stuff, and I look forward to hearing a bit more about it as we move forward. Once things start opening up, I'm sure they'll be able to do even more good work once they can get face to face with people. And now we've got the pressure of trying to find a similarly good guest for next month. So we'll be back similar time next month. In the meantime, if you've enjoyed the episode, please can I ask you to follow us, provide us with a rating, give us a review. All of those kind of things are really good, as well as telling your friends and spreading the word as we continue to grow the podcast.
Well, that just leaves me to thank co-host Phil Boyle, special guest Debbie Hay, the RSA